Hey, folks. Presenting an episode today from you that was actually recorded to be part of season 1. And in our transition of format, I sort of stopped thinking about it because it wasn't the same content. However, this is definitely an episode worth updating and watching as I have a conversation with Kerstin Cable. She's an amazing person. So stay with this and watch it. She's got a lot to say. She was lovely to interview. What a fantastic person. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. All right, look, we've spent plenty of time talking about passports, exotic places, and the best get lost.
Mostly because Jim actually got us lost half the time.
Hey, it's called unplanned exploration. But look, eventually every traveler has to hit the baggage. And that's usually where the fun ends and reality hits you smack in the face.
I'm Chuck Longerbeam.
And I'm Jim Hauck. We're both staring 60 in the face. And we've realized that the most important journey isn't across the ocean. It's the one where you finally stop worrying about who you're offending and start speaking your truth.
We're unpacking more than just suitcases now. We're talking about the big pivots, reinventing your life and your career at an age when society thinks we should just be quiet and pick up pickleball.
Not happening, Chuck. And we're going to talk about this country. But we're done with this left versus right, blue versus red food fights. It's exhausting. We're going to talk about right versus wrong.
Basically,
hello, everybody, and welcome to Life in the Baggage Claim. You are joining us for season 2. We have made it through our first season. We're on to our second, and this is one of our early episodes in season 2. I'm here joined today by Kerstin Cable. She is a language learning coach, speaker, podcaster, online course instructor. She loves to travel. She does hiking trips and things like that. We're going to talk today a little bit about her experience with travel and what she's experienced in this world, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about the topic of AI, which seems to be on everybody's minds. We watch people's jobs disappear and that everything's being blamed on AI today, right, Kerstin? It sort of feels like. And you may notice we're missing a key member today, and that's Chuck. Chuck has taken a full-time job, so we've had some scheduling challenges, and I'm going to miss him today on this episode because he plays so well with others. But I'm going alone on this one with Kerstin, and I think the topic AI is more in my interest than Chuck's anyhow. All right, so welcome, Kerstin, to Life in the Baggage Claim. We're glad to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me. This is going to be really fun. I've been listening to some episodes, and I was looking forward to this dynamic and meeting Jim and Chuck together. So, Chuck, you've let me down, mate. You've let me down.
And for that reason, we'll probably have to plan a repeat episode where we bring you back where we're both here.
Boy, right.
Yeah, we're having to rethink our scheduling time, recording times and everything. It's been, I'm glad for him. He needed to make something happen, and I'm happy he's doing it, and he's got himself a great opportunity. It's sad for me because it's just a change of schedule and everything else. And I was sort of enjoying my Wednesday times with him in the studio where we got to, we shoot the shit for a little bit before we got going on recordings.
I will do my best to stand in.
I'm sure you'll be fine. And you get my dynamic personality, which Lord knows where that'll take you today. So, as you know, Kerstin, on this podcast, we love to talk about we love to talk about everything in people's lives. We try to bring it always with a travel focus. Focus. Boy, let me say that right. With a travel focus. And so we'd love to hear a little bit about your travel experiences. Then we get into a little bit about your thoughts on AI and then wherever this takes us, right? It's a sort of easygoing coffee chat conversation we'll have. Tell me a little bit about what travel experiences you feel people should hear about that are really unique for you.
It's made me, your question is making me look back on life sort of from a travel perspective. And one thing I've noticed that I do in how I travel that seemingly is unusual and I didn't really realize is that I'm quite independent. So I like going away on my own. I've done sort of 2-3 week trips, to the US, and sort of US and then up into Canada by myself. I took the train from Florida to Charlotte, and then I'm on this train chatting to people, and apparently that's an unusual thing to do. I don't know these things. I try not to assume when I travel, but I really like going away by myself.
On a train in America?
Yeah, Amtrak.
Yeah, you were really asking for it. People don't talk here when they're on,
Oh, they were lovely. And that you've got so much space.
The first time I ever experienced people talking on a train was right after 9/11 when I was on a BART train from San Francisco to my office near the airport in San Francisco. And as we came out of the tunnel, everybody heard that 9/11 had happened.
Oh my
And
God.
suddenly everybody on the train started talking to each other, which was a forbidden thing. You didn't talk to anybody on the train in the morning. You sat in your seats, you read your book, you slept, whatever you needed to do. You didn't talk to anybody.
I feel like maybe there's a slight, like, there's a difference between metro transport and like Amtrak, which was sort of this long trip.
True.
The thing
That's
that
true.
threw me, the thing that is I'm not used to from Europe, where I've taken trains all over the continent, was that in American trains, in Amtrak, there is maybe like a sort of a guy maybe selling you like two things. But in Europe, if you're taking a 5-hour trip, there's a cafe. There's like a buffet cart, right? You're going there, you're having a meal, you're having a tablecloth. You don't have to, but even in the UK, in the shorter journeys, there's always at least a shop where you can get a warm sandwich. And they had like nothing. So I went on a 5-hour
Yeah.
trip with like 2 muesli bars because I didn't know and I didn't expect this at all. Everything else beautiful.
Well, you can
And then I'm
thank
thinking,
that to the U.S.
why is
government.
everybody getting out like a like they had flasks.
U.S. government cost cutting took the dining cars out a number of years ago, which is really sad.
The whole
because
picnic, I tell you, Jim, and I had nothing, but it was, it was really, really fun and just a really interesting experience as well because it's not a touristy thing to do, and actually I just looked at it as like, this is much cheaper and I don't like flying that much. If I can do it a different way, I'm going to do it a different way. Whereas a lot of the people on the train, I don't think were people that you would meet if you're,
right,
you know,
it's a whole
visiting,
different
tourist traveling.
demographic that gets on a cruise on
Yeah.
a
But even when I was 15 or 16, I went all across Germany to this with my friend, like one friend, and I organized the entire train trip on like bargain tickets, the cheapest way to get to this festival. And I realize now, like really early on when I was 17, 18, I would fly to the UK on trips for a week, stay with people I met on the internet. It's so crazy. And I'm so lucky that my parents just said, yeah, you're going to be okay. Like, have
It is
fun.
true, right? I think that, in our lifetimes, it's become a more dangerous thing to travel alone, whereas
No, we
when,
believe it has. I don't think it
yeah,
actually
I don't
has.
think it really has, but I think we believe it has. Yeah, you're right. But I can remember that too, that, when I was younger, I took a trip even from San Francisco down to Los Angeles and stayed with somebody I'd only met online at their house during a week of events and things to do. And I look back now, I would never do that, right? I would never do that today. But at the
Well,
time, it seemed perfectly fine. But I sort of also look back and miss that because you met some fun people, you put yourself in some interesting experiences. And I saw and did things that I would have not done otherwise.
no, I'm signed up to, and you too can sign up because they're in America as well. There is a website called Warm Showers, which sounds a bit dodgy, but it's not dodgy. It's just a camp. It's like sort of a stay with hosts locally
Yeah.
when you're on a bike trip, right? Because I go on bike trips, long bike trips, and we've started hosting in every now and then. We're hosting a few people, and they're just camping maybe in my garden or sleeping on the couch or whatever. And just I know it so well, that feeling when if you've done 6, 7 hours of cycling in a day, all you
Mm,
want is to crash somewhere and they don't care. Like, why is it so much less safe than a hotel? It's the same,
that's a good point.
it's not actually really because
So
there
all you're
could be
really
a
providing them is
criminal.
the place to camp and a shower you feed them
All you
or
need. All you need. And it's so nice to, make that little connection and chat to people and see what
yeah,
they're up to. And I can ask them what routes they're taking. And I really love that kind of, I'm from a tiny village. So for me, that sense of community is something
right.
I create in different ways. And yeah, so my main travel thing seems to be that very independent, doing a lot of things on my own. I used to have a job where I would travel 3, 4 months a year to all across Europe. I did Russia, Kazakhstan, a little bit of East Asia, and this was always fine. And I so often encounter people who say, "Oh, you're so brave," and I just don't want to even. I keep thinking, you wouldn't say that if I was a man. You just wouldn't.
There is something to be said. You're right. There is almost a belief that when women do this thing, it's a bravery thing. When men do it, it's just men doing men things, right?
Yeah, it's like it's
But I'm a
normal. It's
huge
natural.
advocate of solo travel. I think that it's where
It's
you
so good.
grow, it's where you learn, it's where you evolve as a person, right? So people who've heard me know that I push people to solo travel because if you travel with somebody that's helping you all the time, you're not really doing it on your own. But when you go travel the first time by yourself, It's an eye-opening experience to who you are. You see your own resiliency. You see your own ability to survive. You've seen your own ability to make things happen, and it's on your schedule, your time, your agenda,
I was
you
gonna say,
know?
like, the way you're phrasing it is interesting because then it's still almost positioning it like something that's really dangerous. Whereas also, if I go and travel by myself, yes, I've got to be resilient. Like, I remember in Charlotte, in this sort of fairly dodgy motel, to be honest, like dodgy as in it wasn't that clean. I didn't love it, but I slipped and kind of sliced my arm open.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like bleeding all over this thing, and you're still on your own, of course. So then you're kind of like going into reception going, sorry,
I
so you
do.
do have to have that sense of humor. But the other thing is just like you say, like it's on your schedule. If I don't want to go out tonight, I can just stay in. If I want to go party all night, I don't have to pay attention to what anybody else wants. And that is a treat.
Well, I think of resiliency in a very positive way. I think that a lot of people don't even look at who they are, as people. Right? We don't. A lot of
Mm,
folks forget to ever kind of look inside and think about who they are because they're so used to following a program, a plan, something that's been mapped out for them, something that's been set up for them. Right. I personally feel like when I did my first couple solo trips, not even in the country a few times, but outside the country. First time I went to London on my own, I felt so accomplished that I managed to get from San
yeah.
Francisco to London to my hotel and then out to places every night to
Yeah. And
go
then
and
you're
have
like, I
fun that
can
I
read the
knew
tube
about.
map.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
read the tube map and I got off the tube and found things and I explored areas that maybe if I was with others might not have happened, right? Because there
Yeah.
may have been a group thought to go somewhere different. And so, and as I've explored other parts of the world that way, I find that I have seen more because I allowed myself to see it. Whereas with a group, I go with the group think and I follow where they want to go. And that means a lot of times you're going to the more popular tourist destinations, things people think of when they go somewhere, right? Whereas
Hmm.
when you're by yourself, you're going to say, yeah, I don't need to see that bridge or that museum or that thing. I want to go over here and live like locals do. I want to see what the
Yeah.
locals do, right? And I have found, even on a cruise once, my mom and I got off the cruise and we hopped on a scooter and we headed off on the islands in the Bahamas. And we ended up in areas where they would probably have said never go, but we had a blast just seeing all these things that we wouldn't have seen otherwise because that wasn't going to be the place the tours took you, right?
Yeah.
Or even my friend Vanessa, when we hit the Caribbean islands, we always go off the beaten path. We don't want to stay in the port. We want to go see the local space. And I think that's a great message for people to hear in general. You should just because it's a tour that's offered you an excursion, a plan, an idea, don't necessarily think that's the only way to do it. There's so much more to every place you visit, right? That is about exploration and learning.
Yeah. And I think from a kind of making the world a better place perspective, it's like I don't know. I was thinking about this with languages, but I also think about this with travel. It's similar. Like to me, language learning is sort of traveling, but in your head. It's nice. But like feeling like you are welcome somewhere, I think makes you more secure in welcoming other people
I agree.
so that like we have so much rejection of people we don't know for reasons of God
Don't
knows
look
what,
like
like
us, who
scarcity
don't
and all that
sound
stuff.
like
And I
us. Yeah.
think it really helps to have a sense of having connected with somebody who looks like that, somebody who whose food smells like that, somebody whose language sounds like that. And it just makes you, I don't know. To me, it's such a like I don't want to be like this sounds so political and these days, but it's not. It's just I think it's
Where
a
you're
shame
coming
when
from, I
people
understand
shut
it.
themselves off from other people when there's so much to be gained and it's so cool and
Sadly, I feel there is an alignment of politics and sometimes political views the way that you're thinking, though, right? Because those who tend to have gone
yeah.
out and seen the world and met others have a lot less harsh judgments of others because they've experienced them in many cases for the
Well,
positive,
it's just
right?
easier. It's easier not to be scared because you're typically you get scared of what you don't know.
Right.
So if you've seen it somewhere and you felt this is what I mean, like if you felt welcome, if you felt safe, I don't know, in a favela or something, and you're like, oh, this is cool, like they were, people here are so cool, so nice. You take that back with you, and then you're in Texas going, oh my god, people in Afghanistan are so nice. Not Afghan, but of course
Yeah, I
people in
know. No,
Afghanistan are nice. Why wouldn't they be? And we just never see on the news if they're nice or not.
It's funny that you mentioned the favela because when I did my trip to Brazil the first time, and I went on my own first time, and I planned for 2 weeks in Rio, and then was going to go for a few days to Sao Paulo. I ended up turning it into a 6 week holiday in
Awesome.
Rio and a week in Sao Paulo. But I remember going up into favela with somebody I'd met there and having the most amazing food because it was so much better than any of the places that were commercialized at the beaches. And so I would probably have never gone into favela if someone hadn't been there that I met locally who said, join me tonight, come to dinner with me, and I went up and had dinner
Yeah.
in a place that I would have never found otherwise because it was up some winding hill and a winding road that I would have probably never ventured.
You totally welcome them back. I guess that's the thing with the warm showers as well and the cycling community. It's mutual welcomes around the world are such a like
Yes.
lovely thing. It's really nice.
What I have found in my own travels around the world that you rarely find someone who's going to be rude to you or mean to you unless you're rude to them. Most people, when they hear you from another country, are welcoming. They want to be ambassadors for their countries and sort of
Mhm.
be the friendly face and voice you see and hope you're experiencing their country in a positive way. That's how I look at it. When I meet someone visiting my country who's never been here, I want to be the positive side of what they see. I wanted them to say, wow, I met this bloke in Texas who was really fun. And he took us out. And we went to this and did that. And we got to hear where he thought was good. Like that's the stuff I want people to experience because if you don't know the locals, you don't know what's happening locally, right?
Yeah.
So if I was dropped into Dallas and didn't know anybody, I'd be downtown going, "Oh, this place closes up at night. There's nothing happening down here," right? But if you know somebody local, you know that you don't stay downtown. You go other places, right? So I think that's the same in any country you go to. Even when I've been to Sydney, when I've been to Melbourne, when I've been to Germany, when I've been to all these other places, it's like you don't go just for the main city you hear about in the travel blogs and everything else. You got to find your way off the beaten path. And I
Yeah,
think
and I
that's
think
where,
solo travel is really conducive to that because you talk to people. You kind of have to. I mean, you can solo travel and it's considered this very introverted thing, but I'm not introverted. I get the impression you're not. And it's for us, it's great because what's better than talking to strangers? And strangers will talk to you if you're solo, 100%. And it's just, you get to hear interesting stuff. And I don't mind sitting in a restaurant, in the evening by myself reading my book. I don't
yeah.
care. It's
But if
fine.
you can sit and talk with somebody interesting too, then it
Yeah,
becomes a whole engaging
yeah. If
evening. And
if you're happy with either and open to either, that's to me, it's so much fun. So yeah,
and some of it's about how you present yourself, right? Like I have found that I always tell this story. I think it's sort of funny. We were in Munich. We'd gone out to Neuschwanstein Castle and we were on a tour and we got up on this wagon with these folks and everybody introduced themselves. And this one couple said, well, we're from Texas. And this is when George W. was doing some unlikable things in the United States, right? So everybody kind of was like, "Oh, Texas, and they got around to us. And my partner and I said, well, we're from San Francisco. And the guy looked at us and said, oh, you're from the other part of the United States, and laughed because it meant to him that we were a little more open and willing to experiment people. So how you present yourself, right? I think Americans sometimes like to come across a little smug and a little unapologetic for who they are. But remembering that when you're in somebody else's culture, you're there in their land. Take a minute and
and you
step
don't
back,
have to
right?
say you don't have to say the country
Yeah.
of where something is after the place, right?
Yeah.
Because Americans are so used to saying city and state name. So they'll come over and they'll say, "We were in Paris, France," and we're all there going, "We know where Paris is. Like, what are you?"
Yeah.
So
Well,
funny.
unless you're from Texas and there's Paris, Texas, right?
It's just a way of talking. It's just a way of talking.
Yeah, you're right. You're
I
right.
love that. Yeah, I think I'm zoning in on my next year's cycling trip, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
go
I
see
think
all
I'm
the
gonna go. I
Parises
think
in
I'm
the
gonna
United
do
States.
USA because I've got a friend who lives in. She's just moved this year from Chicago to somewhere in Baltimore, something, something. So basically, she's moved to Maryland. So I could go to Maryland and then hire a bike and go from there, like around some trails for a week or two. And I thought
Yeah,
that would be really, really, really cool. And I've not gone on a trip, like a solo round trip in the US. And it is so, I'm from Germany. We romanticize the heck out of Route 66. And it's
sure.
everybody's big dream to do that. So for me, it's like, can I do
Even
Route,
Americans,
Route
to be honest
66
with you,
on a
when I first
bicycle?
went
Wouldn't that be
to
amazing?
When I first went to Albuquerque, my first trip, I was very keen on seeing Route 66, which goes through Albuquerque. And there's a lot of history to that, right? So
Yeah.
Americans are that way too. Americans used to love to take Route 66 as a highway. It's a trip you take in the summer with your family, right? So my family did it when we were young. We did the whole Route 66 thing. And it's Americana at its best, right?
Yeah. Is
And
it good?
you're also nowadays you're off the beaten path because people take the interstates. So Route 66 now is a much more offbeat path to go on, but it is fun, and you see the things that America always talked about, right? So it's just a different view. Boy, I can remember being on a Route 66 travel tour, and we had come out of Vegas the day that Elvis died. Forever, we'll remember that, right? We were leaving Vegas as they announced Elvis had just died. We were on Route 66 heading home. So the things
Amazing.
you kind of associate with your travel. So, you talked about being afraid of things. Let's talk a little bit about AI
Oh,
because
yeah.
AI is obviously coming into all parts of the world. And I do believe that we're hearing a lot about the AI bubble now. And I think I have very firmly felt since the beginning of this whole AI push that happened in the last few years that it was just oversell and underdeliver, right? It was like there was a lot about AI that was going to be good, but knowing that it had been trained on an old model and it hasn't gotten any updated training, there was going to be a point where it wasn't going to deliver everything right away. It's going to take time, right? So, yes, there are parts of AI that are off and running and doing their own thing, but I don't think AI is responsible for taking my job. I don't think it's going to remove me as a travel advisor. In fact, I'm pretty sure that what AI is doing is empowering me as a travel advisor to do more. So when my clients come to me and want to make a trip now, I can do my research through AI to come up with something to tell them that is written well and gives them good information that it would have taken me longer to find in the past, right?
Hmm.
And so I look at AI as it enhances my ability to do more for my clients with less resources.
Hmm.
So I don't think that took jobs away because those jobs didn't ever exist. I didn't have openings for all that kind of staff, but I don't have to hire that kind of staff to do my work either.
Hmm.
So I think that's part of where I feel AI is good. I think AI is a benefit to a lot of people for how it can present information to you. One of the things I love about AI, and this probably comes with your language learning stuff, I am probably the worst with writing. I'm a terrible writer. I don't keep my tenses clear. I don't keep my verbiage right. If something like AI helps me put a tone to my writing that's consistent, right? So I can say to AI that my business tone is this, and I want it to sound like this, and it should be happy and fun. And I can get content that matches that, right?
Hmm.
So talk to me a little bit like what you think about all that part of AI. Because obviously with learning models, you're teaching the AI to learn who you are, right? To be who you are.
Yes,
So
I think with any model you are, and I mean, it's probably worth saying, like, when we're the way we're talking about AI now, it's like that specific Gen AI, sort of the large
yes,
language
yeah.
models thing. So, because AI existed before,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
been, like autocorrect on your phone is AI, or
right. That's good. I'm
if you're
glad you're
driving
saying
into
that
a
because
car
people should,
park or a parking lot, and it tracks, like, or at least here, if I drive into the city car park, I can drive out, I don't have to pay because I'm on some computer list and then it'll bill me later. So that's AI.
well,
That's
map routing is AI, right? I
yeah,
mean, getting you
yeah,
from
yeah.
point A
Google
to
Maps
point B
is
is artificial intelligence.
so yeah, so I think that it's that thing of like artificial intelligence is it makes it sound like a certain thing. Whereas what we have now is the best way I've heard these language models described that made sense to me is you've got something because it itself doesn't know, think, or have that intelligence, right? But it is the best. That's why it's so good at writing. The best algorithm for predicting what word comes next, right? And that's why
That's a good thing
it'll
because it's for looking at like every so many words, it kind of knows that the choices are, it's always looking at what choices you could put next, right? So
yes,
it's
and
sort
it
of,
can do that so
we used to
fast.
play the game on our phones where you'd go and you type a word and see what it said the next word should be. And then you'd kind of text each other with that until
Yeah.
it just got so crazy. You're like, what does this mean at this point, right?
So it's like that, but really, really good at it to the point where it can simulate, and it's so fast to the point where it can simulate interaction. So I think what's really different and the jump, looking at it as a language coach, tutor, expert, one difference I can really see is like you've got the Duolingo kind of age. And I learned languages before Duolingo. Like, I don't really need the apps, but I know what
Okay.
they do. because to me it's always been a part of my life. So you've got this, but then you've got something where, like, thinking on Duolingo, you are presented with an interface. You've got a very limited amount of stuff you can type in. You're tapping here. You've got a very limited way of doing it. Whereas the way that you say navigate, you drive, the things that we see now, the Gen AI models, is by just prompting it. So you just type in your instructions. So you have way more freedom. And for you as the user of another language, or somebody who wants to use another language, one of the great things is you can type fairly mediocre like French into it, and it'll reply in French. Right? So it's going to allow you to communicate by typing in these instructions and kind of free up your world, open up your world a little bit, which is what we want. And then there's so many, like I run this thing called AI Language Club with my friend. I think we're coming to our 60-second, idea tutorials. There's just way more than I could ever think about, little cool ways that you can use this generative AI tool to do something with it. But what I'm looking at there is like a really small, limited use case. And I've got another friend who works at the fact checkers, like a big fact checking charity kind of thing, runs the AI, builds the AI model. Because again, they're looking at, what does it look like when a claim is made? So we can flag it to the people who then look at it with their actual human brains. And it's like you say, I think good, I don't want to say ethical because who gets to decide, right? But ethical-ish and a sort of, to me, sustainable feeling way of using AI is exactly what you're saying. You are enhancing, not replacing what you're doing.
Right.
Jobs have been replaced before. Jobs have been
The industry,
in like car factories have been replaced by
the
robots.
steam engine replaced manual.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I think
So
people
this is
forget
just
that in our
technology will
lifetimes.
always come and steal someone's job. And
Yeah.
I actually I do have thoughts. I don't just have like all positive thoughts about AI. I just don't quite know. I think the thing is, I'm too late, to be honest, because I have been a blogger since 2012, right? I have written thousands of worth. I've written books worth, but just always as a blog, right? I have sort of,
Right.
and then in a way, for me, I kind of never charged for these. It was my generous contribution to humanity, let's say. I've made a podcast. I've done two. You're making a podcast now. This has already been eaten by ChatGPT. ChatGPT is now chewing it up and basically selling it back to me. And that is sad for me because all I wanted was to reach the humans, And there is an element of creativity and I don't think the intellectual property rights are necessarily being respected in the way that I
I agree.
want them to be. On the other hand, you could say, and as a businesswoman, business owner, I have learned this, it's my own fault if I give something away for free. At that point, I don't have the rights to it. But certainly, I've written books that I'm selling on KDP, on Amazon, and those have probably been eaten by ChatGPT too. And I would have quite liked at least my $4, but really they should pay me royalties because they're using that. So I think the way that it's changing the industry of creation and the kind of what we're calling the creator economy is significant. I think there are certain people, bloggers, in a way, going to lose their jobs because people just don't need to Google and look stuff up on a blog anymore. There's a thing that'll present that for you. But I don't know if this is specifically about AI or if it's just that thing about how ready or resistant are we to change? And then, like you said earlier about resilience, it's kind of that. Like, it's useless almost to sit and complain about it. We kind of have to be this. God, I've never sounded so. I don't want to say right wing, but I've never sounded so. I've never sounded so conservative. But
You're
I mean, like, it's
sounding
kind
like
of.
anyone should as a case of
If you
this
have
is
the
what's happening.
opportunity, you
Yes.
if you have the opportunity to think about how can I use this as an opportunity. There's an Obama. I once heard. I've not listened to many like Obama interviews. I'm not like fangirl or something, but he said something once that I thought was so smart and such a good attitude. Which is like, when he came into the power, it was big financial crisis. Everything's like on fire. And the thing that he said, looking back on it, was like, but there's got to be an opportunity here, and that's something when I'm struggling after I've had a rest and I kicked something. I often try to say to myself, there's got to be an opportunity here. It's got to be somewhere. And I know that, like, it's in a way, it's a very American way of thinking. We in Europe are much more defeatist, but that's how I look at AI. And for us as language teachers, me and Josh, so far, I think we were really lucky and we made the right choice to go in early on, because this is 2 years we've been doing this now, and say, there's got to be an opportunity here. What is the opportunity? Let's not close our eyes and go, this is bad. I'm very skeptical usually with things. And this was the one time I said, do you know what? I'm just going to go in. I'm just going to go for it and look at it. And I'm glad that I took the opportunity, and it's given me a more nuanced view.
Hey, so to our guests who are tuning in, I'm sitting here today with my guest, Kerstin Cable, who is a blogger. She's a podcaster. She's a large language model person. She's
She forgot that we're live.
She's a pretty amazing person. I'm glad we have her on here. If you're interested in seeing more about her, you can check out her website at fluidlanguage.co.uk, which we'll put in the comments. If you've started out this episode, we were talking about traveling and warm showers and how to get around the odd paths of life and travel. We're now on to talking about AI, which is sort of where we wanted to go with this episode. And I think Kerstin's bringing up some really good food for thought for a lot of folks. As she stated, AI is just like anything else. It's replacing, but we've had other things replaced before. I even look at recently, I watched an episode about the Encyclopedia Britannica and things like that, and the fact that Google effectively replaced the need for a home-based encyclopedia. Families would spend thousands of dollars to have these books on their shelf so their kids could learn during school about things that they didn't know how to get information on, right? And I can remember in my young years of many years ago in school, having to go to an encyclopedia and look things up and find my sources versus students today who can go right onto the web and write to AI for that matter, right? And get their content written for them. And even teachers have had to learn to use AI differently, right? Teachers have tools to scan the students' work to see whether they directly plagiarized it from the web or AI, or whether they actually wrote their own content. And I think that we just don't see those things and say, oh, that's AI at work. You used to take and buy maps. You'd go to AAA and get a triptych for your travels in the United States. You don't do that anymore. You go onto your phone and you say, I want to go from Dallas to Chicago. Take me. And I want to stop in these 4 cities. And if you really have fun, you go on Road Tripper and do it and say, and I want to pick people up along the way to take with me, So there's just, we don't sit there and say, oh, that took away the people's job at AAA, but it did. Those people don't have a job anymore writing out triptychs. No ladies sitting on a desk and with a highlighter drawing your map on each page so you know how to get from one place to the other. I don't know if you had those over where you live, Kerstin, but that was a thing here in the United States. When you went on a trip in the summer, you went to AAA, you ordered a triptych. They gave you a booklet they would put together custom for you of each of your maps to follow, like a slice of where you were driving so you could follow it. And then a book for each state, a book for each stop, hotel recommendations and everything else so that you could make your trip across the distance you were going very easily. And these were a thing.
Partly because you're a country where the distances are so massive that you've got such a driving culture.
Yeah.
Whereas
AAA,
my parents are winemakers. My brother is a winemaker. And we're like a little family business, right? So we just deliver to people who directly order from us. And my parents
owns a wine bar, so we need to get you two in touch.
We would love that. We've just never managed to import with all of the costs and stuff. But yes. Oh my God, please! You need a good importer.
Yeah, she and her husband had just moved their wine bar up to Murphy's, California, which is by Yosemite.
I used to do wine tastings. I used to run wine tastings here in the UK because obviously just from home I know about wine as well. And then people would order through me from my family, and I can't do it anymore because of Brexit, because it's impossibly difficult now. And
it's hard to send wines to the United States.
Yes, exactly. And sending wine to Britain is now pretty much the same thing.
Jon Stewart just did a thing this week on his show recently that said, he says you can buy a wine from New Zealand or from Australia and get it here. He couldn't buy a wine from Canada. And he sort of said to go, wow, that's just strange, right? So he actually bought some wine that had his name on it because it's a former Canadian prime minister's name that he has. And so the wine was named after the prime minister, but he took it and he's selling it. Oh, he's selling a wine with his name on it. And so I had to buy a bottle, of course, but I'm going to send this out to my sister in California. But yeah, Emery, if you listen to this, I'll make sure you get the information. Maybe this is a connection we put you together
we
with.
have had Brazilian families show up at like the doorstep in Germany and saying, "We've got the same last name as you. We must be old family." I was like, "What? We're not, but we will happily let you believe this."
Yeah. Depending on
But
how unique your name is, I guess that can happen, right?
yeah. So when I was a little kid, we would do like the wine delivery trips, and these are huge trips across Germany, which is not a big country compared to even Texas. I remember my dad having the maps and teaching me how to read the map. So map reading skills are sort of I am what we would call an elder millennial. Are sort of just fading out in my generation. And I think if you ask somebody now, you show them a map, I don't think most
Even
people
knowing how to read a map, because I
they
knew how
can't
to
even
read
do you know,
maps,
they can't even
I
read
can't
analog
do it
clocks
anymore.
anymore. It's mad.
Yeah. I mean, I
Kids
remember
these
looking
days.
up how to get. So, I laugh at early days of printing MapQuest directions and putting them in your car. And you're
Yes.
trying to read these at night while you're driving. And you think about the most dangerous thing you could do, right? You're putting a little light, trying to figure out where you're going, and you have no idea. I mean, it's come a long way. And I was an eager adopter of GPS and ways to get there without having to think about it. I'm usually one. My family has always been an early adopter. My dad was a scientist. We're the first kids on the block to have a VCR, the first ones to have a computer, because that was my dad's way of doing things, right? I think that we don't often think about all the things that have changed, right? So streaming services have put some video
Yeah.
stores out of business, right? You got to really look in your life and say, there's been a lot of replacement things and technologies and services that have come in that have displaced other things. And it's okay. We survive.
It's
This
okay.
AI replacement is not the end of the world. They're taking a fringe piece that says AI could learn and become iterative and develop its own language and potentially take us out. Sure, if you want to believe that, that's a possibility. There's all kinds of possibilities. There have been movies done about it, right? Go watch Terminator. Go watch all these movies that talk about how AI takes over the world. It is possible. But in this day and age right now, I think we should focus on what can you do to adapt and learn and use technologies they're put in front of you, right?
Yes,
Figure out
and we
how
should
to
be
make the
careful
best of
about
it.
worshipping tech companies to a certain extent because we did it all wrong with Facebook, and
Oh boy.
we don't want to necessarily do it again with OpenAI and bring in like it's really about at country level and at company level bringing in decent regulation and
And
making
some
sure
management. Yeah.
just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should.
Yeah. And that was the saddest thing for me was hearing companies talk about removing those barriers. So it's like, no, you know what? We really need to keep the barriers because Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and all these other things are what they are because we didn't put barriers up and we've affected kids and we've affected youth. And people have a different view of the world because of how we put social media into play, right? If we put the right guidelines around how AI works, it becomes a tool for us versus us a tool for it. And that's what you got to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, listen, Kirsten, this has been a really lovely conversation. And I do definitely think we'll have you back so you can meet Chuck at some point. I appreciate your time with us today. Do you have any closing words or thoughts or anything you want to leave our listeners with today?
I would love to, if somebody is interested in learning a language, I would love to recommend our club. It's called AI Language Club. It's an online membership. We're $9 a month, so we're
There you go.
yeah, and we really care about our learners, and we're
Less than your
hoping.
Starbucks latte a day for a week.
Yeah, that's it, right? It's not actually even in the UK now. A Starbucks costs insane amounts of money, so it's really not that pricey. Price might go up next year, but you're watching it now and you're here now. So if you are interested and you're just curious, we get so many people joining who just you can join for like 2 months. We don't lock you in, and you can just kind of look around and get a few ideas that maybe help you expand your mind. It would be so for me it's so exciting when somebody goes back to language learning and has a positive attitude instead of thinking, "Oh, I can't do this." It's such a
That's a
fulfilling
good
thing.
call. I might have to take you
So
up on that
come
myself.
come along just to make me happy, but also you'll feel great about yourself because you're
Yeah.
smart.
So, folks, this is Kerstin Cable. She's been a beautiful guest here on Life in the Baggage Claim today. If you can't tell, she's a fun, energetic person to talk to. I'm really sorry we didn't get Chuck here today. As I mentioned at the beginning, Chuck is off working for a living and trying to make a life for his family continue and not be held back by the slowness that's going on in our travel businesses these days. But listen, this was a great episode. Kerstin, thank you eternally for being here. And everybody, thank you for joining us today on Life in the Baggage Claim. If you enjoyed this, make sure you like and subscribe and follow us and hit those notifications so you know when our new episodes come out every week. We're a growing community. We've got a lot of people who have been slowly coming on board. We hope you'll be part of this too and be part of Kerstin's community and learn about your languages that you may have forgotten. Everybody takes some kind of language and wonders what they were doing with it.
Yes.
Go learn. Check out her website, fluentlanguage.co.uk. Look her up on the internet at Kerstin Cable. She's got a lot out there, and she's a good person to get to know. So thank you again for Life in the Baggage Claim. Have a great week. Bye-bye.